Hey everyone, it's Zach Wright from IMEO Company, where we help busy business leaders and growing companies tap into a 360-degree view on their organization with the OKR framework. Today, this video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be on topic, but it's going to seem like it's not on topic because I wanted to talk about the Radonda Vaught case that has been going on in Tennessee or Nashville. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because there's some underlining things that I think a lot of people aren't considering in this particular trial that relates to business, company culture, and then the employee themselves. Now, there's been a lot of people talk about the consequences of what happens if she is found guilty and has to serve time in prison, which I believe that she was just found guilty on certain charges. So the goal is not to dive into detail on that specific trial. I do want to give a little bit of a background, so as I continue to go through some of the points that I want to make, you understand if you're not familiar with this. So her name's Radonda Vaught. It was 2017, so it was before the pandemic. She gave the wrong medication to a patient. She was supposed to give her one of these sedatives, and she ended up giving her a different type of medicine, which ultimately led to that patient's death, right? So what happened from that situation and that scenario, Radonda went and told the hospital about her mistake, right? She didn't try to cover it up. But on the other hand, the hospital did try to cover it up initially. That's what the reports have said. So the hospital tried to cover it up, which is something about the culture within itself. That says something about the culture, not about Radonda. So the background, that's really where I want to focus on as much as the situation occurs, right? I want to focus more on the business, the company culture, and the employee perspective. Now, you might be asking, Zach, why do you want to cover this topic? The reason is because it's near and dear to my heart, because my wife is a cardiovascular nurse. My mother has been in the healthcare field, nurse administration, for over 35 years. My brother is a doctor, and then my father-in-law is a doctor as well. So none of these situations or scenarios are coming from them directly. They don't even know that I'm making this video, but I've heard stories growing up from every source that you can. I've also worked in the hospital back in the day and seen some of these things. So the first part I want to talk about is the business side of things. So what could make it important enough for the hospital to try to cover this up? And I think it's a series of events, right? We've gone through this culture within our country, talking about the United States, where you can get sued for being a doctor and making a mistake. You can get malpractice lawsuits and different things like that, right? But before we get to that level, because I will get there, the first part I want to talk about is donations from the donors, right? If we're talking about a tech company and there's investors and they have some bad story come out about them. Let's talk about Theranos, right? Because that was one of the last videos I did. Theranos had a bad story come out about them. Well, investors started to pull away. Board of directors members started to leave, right? That's what could happen here if this got out. So that might be the initial reason for trying to cover up the story, right? So that says something about the culture already. It says that the donors are already ahead of, or more important than the employees, than the patients themselves, right? So that pulls into question, what does this culture look like? What does it mean? And why did they go about this in the way that they did? Now, speaking of culture, I want to go into psychological safety, right? I talked about this before. If you haven't watched any of the other videos, psychological safety is basically a way in which the company says it's okay to be yourself here. You don't have to lie. You don't have to act like someone else. You can be comfortable being your full self. But in addition to that, that means that you're comfortable with admitting mistakes, right? Again, if we talk about a tech company where it's not a life or death situation, they encourage admitting mistakes. And the reason they do that is because A team that admits mistakes more frequently often produces more productivity over time because they're able to see that mistake, learn from it, and then grow into the future where they don't have to have that issue anymore because they've worked on improving it and making it where it's not a relevant subject anymore, right? So let's go back to Radonda here. She admitted her mistake. She didn't try to hide it, from my understanding, right? I only know so much. She didn't try to hide it. The hospital's reaction was based on the donors and avoiding trying to be held accountable. That says to the employees that the donors are more important to them and the patients. Now, let me dive into that. Why does that mean that specific thing? It means that they didn't want to lose any money coming into them, so they wanted to cover up the story. And as we see this story progress, I don't know how much the hospital has mentioned their support behind Radonda or been able to be there. In my opinion, right? This is just opinion. In my opinion, when companies say, whenever you get hired, they say, you represent our brand. So please go out there and make sure that whenever you're out there, you represent XYZ company brand. So don't do anything to make a mistake, right? So when they say that, is that true or is that bullshit, right? In this situation, I don't know if the company said that, but I'm assuming that that's what they said because that's kind of like a gimmicky company thing to say. If they said that and you are part of the brand, I think, or culture is a family here, it's the same type of thing. If they said that, then the hospital should be held accountable, not the individual person, because the environment within the hospital has allowed this to happen, right? Speaking to the nurses that I know, and even whenever I worked, not as a nurse, just to clarify, as an operating room assistant, it was hard to even get a break to use the restroom. It was hard to get a break to eat. You only get 30 minutes. You're supposed to have 15 minutes of a break. If there's any nurses listening here, they're laughing because that is not what happens. So if you're not even able to get a 30-minute lunch or use the restroom, just think about all the things that you have to do without taking a break, right? We talk about mindfulness. We talk about making sure that our psychological well-being is being worked on. Well, if you're not allowed a break, then your psychological tendencies and stamina go down, right? You need that time to recharge and that kind of situation. So, or in that kind of stuff. So if that is what was happening here, it's no surprise that eventually a nurse is going to make a mistake, right? So I say all that to say the environment that the hospital creates should be taken into consideration of mistakes happening, right? Because in my opinion, again, these are all my opinion, backed by studies too, but in my opinion, if the company culture and environment is not set up in a way that feeds into the employee's benefit, then you're going to have mistakes, right? It should be the company's responsibility to tap into what is needed for the employee to be able to be their best work selves at work, right? And this is not even going into like the nurse shortage or the lack of nurses that we have within hospitals. Now that's a source of this issue too, but that's kind of uncontrollable in the sense of you can only get so many nurses because of this and this, which kind of taps into, are we paying the nurses enough? Are we making it worth their while? which is a whole different video. But so if we go back to the company, they should have went to bat for her. In my opinion, again, they should have paid for her medical fees, or excuse me, the law fees, anything that she has been going through right now. They should be paying for that. If companies truly care about their employees, they should step up whenever certain things like this happen. Not say, this was one nurse, this was one mistake, and that cannot be a representation of our hospital. Because when they say things like that, that tells all the other employees that the donors are more important, the money is more important, the numbers are more important. We don't care about you, because if you make a mistake, you're out the window, you're out the door, right? That's another example of the culture they created. And again, I don't know all the details here. I'm speaking in general terms here. So that's a big pet peeve of mine. If you say that you invest in your employees and you say that you care about them, you have to show them. It can't just be words. So now let me go into the employees in future state, right? So I believe that they have found her guilty, and at some point she will have to go back for sentencing, right? I don't think that she was found guilty as far as like murder, full-on murder, but she was found guilty for something, and she'll probably have to spend, from what I've heard, is a couple years or years in jail. So what does that do for the employees in future state? Now, this has been talked about a few different places, but this will now be an uphill battle for people wanting to admit their mistakes. Now, if we go back to the quote that I said before, teams who admit their mistakes more frequently are better producers in the organization. They have better teamwork, they have better collaboration, and they see improvements faster and more often than a team who doesn't admit mistakes. That is a big thing, because it's not just nurses here, right? Doctors have already experienced this. We see malpractice lawsuits to doctors. That makes them take less risk on certain procedures, certain diagnoses, because they know that it could, even though they know it could significantly help the patient, they have a fear of being sued. They have a fear of making a mistake that could possibly make them lose their license, right? So now this factors into nurses, PAs, NPs, anybody working in the healthcare facility. This is setting the precedent for all workers, not just doctors, for all workers, saying, if you make one simple mistake, one time, you could lose your license, you could go to jail. So our healthcare workers are no longer able to do what is best for the customer, thanks to the hospital's priorities. Now, I'm not putting the blame on the hospital specifically. It's the way that the world works in business, where if you have investors, you have to listen to them, because they're your source of income, in a sense of keeping the money rolling in, keeping the business afloat, being able to pay your employees. All these things factor in. So if you don't listen to them and you lose them, then you're in a hole that you don't want to be in, and it's tough to get out of. But the key here is that hospitals have donors, and if they don't have those donors, or if they get a bad reputation, then those donors are most likely going to go away. So I think it has to start there. Where can we find the root cause and change it, flip it on its head, right? And I think one of the ways is for those people, donors, for even the patient suing the nurse, put yourself in their position, right? If in your job you were able to be sued, lose your license, whatever the case is, how would you react if you were doing the right thing and made one mistake? right? I know I've been in organizations where I've made mistakes, I've admitted them, and then we've been able to reflect on them, move forward, and never have it happen again, and also teach lessons to other people from that mistake. So we can avoid it, not just for me, but for the team around me. But put yourself in that position. If you were doing the right thing and made one mistake and you could get sued, what would you do? You would take less risk. You wouldn't necessarily keep the company's benefit in mind. You would try to do whatever it is in your best interest, which is where the companies create corruption, in the sense of, okay, I made a mistake, I'm going to try to cover it up, I'm not going to tell anybody, I hope it doesn't get found, right? So that, especially one of the key core values of almost every company, is integrity. Like, if you're preaching integrity or some sort of that word, you have to allow your employees to speak up and admit mistakes without having negative consequences, in the sense of being fired, being sued without someone being in your corner, and things like losing your license, right? If people are so concerned with losing their license, they're going to start to do things that go against their moral conscience, which is going to ultimately cause guilt. It's going to have larger implications rather than just being fired. If we go back to Radonda, okay, she didn't get charged for the highest level, whatever it was, but she still has to live with the actions that she's done. In my opinion, that alone is enough punishment for a nurse, for a doctor. They have to live with this. Whenever we send soldiers over into war, and they have to do what they were possibly taught to do, which is kill someone, they have to live with that, right? It's not right or wrong. It's something that they signed up for, and that's their punishment. It's not that they can get sued or fired because of that, even if they make a mistake, right? There's been friendly fire where somebody on the other team has been killed on accident. They don't get fired. They learn from that mistake, and then they try to their best ability to never let that happen again. So I wanted to do this video. I know it's longer. I know it's just me talking, but this is overarching on the culture that hospital has created, and it's setting the precedent for any other nurse, any other PA, any other NP, doctor, you name the healthcare profession. This is becoming, it could become an issue where the mistakes are never admitted, meaning they can never learn from them personally, meaning that they can never learn from that personally and then turn it around and teach the team to help avoid this mistake for them. It's a huge issue. It's a cycle. It's a domino effect that if we don't take the time to really understand the root cause of this issue, it wasn't that one nurse making that one mistake. It was a series of events that compounded on itself, starting with the priorities of the hospital, right? Because the priorities of the hospital was to, even though it's probably a nonprofit, was to make money, reach the numbers that they had to make it look good for the donors. And as a result of that, there's less nurses to support the number of patients, which probably go over the amount of beds that they have. Those domino effects have equaled this situation specifically. And now people, nurses, are going to be fearful of admitting mistakes because that psychological safety, if there was any level of it, is now gone. And that's the importance. And I know I'm going to tie it back to OKRs because that's what we do here. But if there was a level of understanding of what the company was trying to achieve, there would be an understanding from the employees and the direction and all these different things that could improve certain areas, right? But it starts at the business level, which feeds into the culture, and the culture ultimately affects the employees. And that's where we are with this situation now. I wanted to do this video because, as I mentioned, my wife, mother, brother, father-in-law are all in the healthcare industry. And I know a lot of friends who are nurses, doctors, and other medical professionals that are probably going to be fearful based on the outcome of this trial. I would love to get to your take on this. If there was anything that I missed, as I mentioned, I didn't do as much research on this as other people have. There's other videos out there on YouTube who go into full detail, but let me know your thoughts. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if you've experienced any of this and what your thoughts are on how to overcome this. But thanks so much for listening and hearing me rant a little bit. I know it's not as structured as normal, but thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.